Hello to all my infotech colleagues. My research project and this presentation will be introducing you to RFID and its applications. While the presentation may not be thoroughly extensive, I do hope that it gives you a brief overview of what is RFID and its capabilities. The reason why I chose this topic was because of a couple of intriguing uses of RFID and how it pretty much proved to be a money saver and time saver. I once read an article about spas and hotels investing in specially crafted RFID tags within their linens. So if a tag item ever were to leave the hotel's premises, the RFID chip will trip an alarm alerting staff. The second example that I read, and this is on a much somber note, is that RFID tagging is paving its way in healthcare. And I read about this young innovator who started a company called KitCheck using RFID technology. And pretty much KitCheck is designed to be able to update medication inventory. And in a sense, he was able to reduce the time and labor that was spent in hospitals on such a tedious manual process. So RFID is an acronym and it stands for Radio Frequency Identification. It is a wireless, non-contact use of radio frequency electromagnetic fields to transfer data for the purpose of automatically identifying and tracking tags that will be attached to objects. Unlike a barcode, the RFID tag does not necessarily need to be within line of sight of the reader and may be embedded in the tracked object. The RFID technology is known to have its roots around the early 1940s, but back then it was nowhere close to the technology that is found today. In the 1970s, with the growing concern of nuclear security, the RFID development did progress. Due to the request of the Department of Agriculture, eventually passive RFID tags were created for the purpose of livestock tracking, and in particular with respect to cattle tracking. Currently, because of the progress of the field, RFID tags are low in cost and can pretty much be outfitted on any product to be tracked. The biggest game changer, I would say, in the RFID field came about due to the work spent by two MIT professors. This will be Starmer and Brock. These two guys essentially changed the way people thought about RFID. They were able to link objects to the internet through the tag, and in effect, they were able to create a networking technology for businesses. So if we were to look at the RFID timeline, in the early 1990s, IBM developed an ultra-high frequency RFID system, or UHF. And this system had the capability of providing a longer read range. Throughout the 90s, though, funding was limited, so progress was limited, and they did not do so well. But in 1999, the UHF RFID actually got a boost when the Uniform Code Council and the European Article Number funded the Auto ID Center, which will be at MIT, and because of the work done by Brock and Starmer, huge developments and progress were made. During the time period, I would say around 1999 to 2003, the Auto ID Center gained huge recognition and they garnered support from top industries worldwide. Because of that popularity and because of that support, money was poured in for more research, and research labs were cropping up all over the world. Because of that, ultimately, the development and progress led to two things being made. The first one being the Electronic Product Code Numbering Scheme, or EPC, as well as the network establishment for looking up data associated with a tag via the internet. So if we were to fast forward to present day, big retailers such as Target, Walmart, even pharmaceutical companies, tire and other industries, they are combining EPC as well as RFID technology to be able to track goods in their supply chain. So before I move on, I want to give a brief description of how an RFID system works. Remember, thanks to the UHF RFID, an RFID tag can be read several feet away and does not need to be within direct line of sight of the reader to be tracked. So if you were to look at an RFID system, it pretty much consists of two parts. That'll be the tag and the reader. The tag component contains a microchip, and the microchip is used for storing and processing information. And then the second part is the antenna, which is also in the tag component, and it is needed for receiving and transmitting a signal. In order to read the information encoded on a tag, we will have a two-way radio transmitter receiver, which is called either interrogator or a reader. And this emits a signal to the tag using an antenna. The tag will then respond with the information from the memory bank. The reader will then transmit the read results to an RFID computer program. So now that we have discussed the history of the RFID system and technology, as well as gained a little knowledge of how it actually works, we can explore what present-day industries are actually using it for. So some of the applications include asset tracking. So with respect to RFID technology and asset tracking, the system is able to read multiple tags at once. Therefore, personnel are able to move quickly and be able to accurately locate assets. The next is supply chain management. With RFID, the effectiveness of supply chain management has definitely improved, and total inventory cost has been lowered. It has also been noted from companies that there is a higher percentage of customer satisfaction. In manufacturing, all types of manufacturers using the RFID system can pretty much control and monitor their process to improve production and gain efficiencies with access to real-time data. In retailing, a large percent of retailers and even suppliers are currently using RFID, or they plan to employ such technology. Many retailers are actually using the technology in order to improve supply chain visibility, as well as to reduce out of stocks. Another application is payment systems, and there's actually significant growth and opportunities to strive for contactless payments, and using an RFID system can actually enable this. And finally, with respect to security access and control, an RFID automated access can not only be cost effective, but it can be secure to use. Contactless access actually provides excellent security. And even though that is probably just the basic function, RFID actually has the capability of being enhanced and you can actually use it to provide time and attendance information for business or security purposes. So with the endless possibilities and the increasing popularity, one may actually wonder what is the actual cost to implement RFID technology in one's business. So keep in mind, in the early 1990s, costs were high, and they were high because sales were pretty much low, and there were not much developmental progress being made in the 1990s. But due to the RFID evolution, the cost is considerably lower compared to the 1990s, and it varies according to the size of the company and, of course, the extent of the RFID use. There's not really a fixed cost, but based on a survey from a panel of RFID implementers, I found that the cost can range from as low as 15,000 all the way up to 400,000. So where does this cost actually come from? So what is the breakdown of the implementation cost? In terms of implementation cost, it is broken down into 4 categories: hardware, intangibles, changes to existing supply chain applications, and storage and analytics. So hardware would probably comprise of paying or buying tags, readers, or even transponders. Intangibles will cover the cost of consulting services and analyzing services. Another cost will be changes to existing supply chain applications, and this is where the business will actually have to do upgrades. They might have to do purchases of middleware or even buying the actual RFID software. And with respect to storage and analytics, of course, you would want a place to house your data. A good thing to note that I found out in my research is that the majority of the implementation cost is front-loaded and it is not ongoing. So a company is expected to be able to put up the cost initially, and once the system is implemented, they only have to worry about maintenance issues. The majority or the bulk of the expense, again, is at the start of the implementation and trying to get that up and running. One thing to keep in mind, and I found out that it is recommended, is that you should, or any business or company should be able to have a pre-planning stage. And out of the 4 categories on this slide, I would say intangibles is the category that you have to keep an eye out for because it fluctuates. It is susceptible to increase because since it's recommended to have a pre-planning stage before implementation, the consultant fees can actually go up, and this can actually drive the cost of intangibles. Despite all the perks, advantages, and applications with respect to adopting the RFID system, there are some controversies and conspiracy theories that surround the integration of RFID in our everyday lives. The primary theme that I found and that was conveyed in the RFID controversy is the invasion of privacy. Another hot issue that I found actually was the fact that there was this big concern about what happens to the information that is being collected. Where does it go? And then there is the big issue or concern or the big question about, well, it's not clear whether the information will end up being used or abused. So in summary, I do think that RFID technology will continue to evolve. It can get cheaper and much more robust in its applications. Without a doubt, I think privacy issues need to be addressed, and RFID vendors need to include this in their developmental plans apart from solving unique business problems. It's my belief that the RFID system is a tool, and it is more than capable, and it has the capacity of playing a strong, vital role in a variety of sectors. I do hope my presentation was informative, and I look forward to answering your questions. Thank you.